Joy Reid, the most miserable race-baiting television host that cable news ever produced, has finally been fired over at MSNBC. They were terrified to do this. We think they've wanted to do this for quite a while, but they were so scared of her they couldn't. Sources telling the New York Times the final episode of the show, 7 p.m. The readout is planned for sometime this week. We now believe that is tonight. Tonight should be the last episode. Adding, Miss Reid's 7 p.m. program will be replaced by a panel show co-hosted by Simone Sanders, Alicia Menendez, and Michael Steele. So don't expect anything better from MSNBC, but it will be different. Just so we can remember all together some of the best moments of Joy Reid's show.
Trump has always been, for those who were paying attention, was a rich, malevolent, really racist man. Vladimir Putin almost is Donald Trump's new dad. It has been a full year since George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. We are still fundamentally broken in so many ways. Our policing system, broken. MAGA right is currently in this country going to war over history and anti-racism education. I am among the fully vaccinated, joined Team Pfizer, and I did go jogging today in the park, this was the mask that I wore with a doctor's mask under it. They're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. Can we trust the data coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics when they report the unemployment rate, right? If Donald Trump wants it to be 2%, will it be 2%? If he wants it to be, we have 0% unemployment, could it be that? Could they manipulate census? Like, there's so many things they could theoretically do.
There's so much more. So much more. Trish Regan joins us now, along with Tom Bevan, founder of Real Clear Politics. Good to see you both. Tom, it seemed like, that NBC had wanted to do this for a very long time, but NBC is so mortified on the issue of race that they probably couldn't. But this was this was a pretty bad show. This was pretty vile, the things that came out of that show.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the most racially divisive shows on TV and even on that network, I would argue. But ultimately, I think it was, to your point, they're replacing it with basically something similar. I think this was, at the end of the day, an economics decision. Her viewership in the 25 to 54, the sort of coveted demo, was 59,000 people. That's all that were watching that show on a daily basis. CNN's was 104. Fox's was, I think, 350,000. So she was an anchor, and I mean that in a bad way, for her lead-in to Jen Psaki, and her show just wasn't doing very well, and so I think that was the impetus behind this decision. Yeah,
and again, she was just also, I feel like a growing liability as she got more and more kind of radicalized. God knows what she's going to say. She said some really bad stuff. Trish, the media analysts are going to say this is more of the media bowing to Trump, the same way they did when CNN booted Acosta out of there. I feel like it's more of a media reckoning with kind of the direction of the country.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget, MSNBC is getting spun off and will be a publicly traded company onto its own, along with CNBC and some of the other cable entities. So as an investor, let's just be realists here, okay? As an investor, do I really want to go and buy stock in a company with a woman who is so divisive and filled with so much vitriol and trying to push that every night? Let me just say, talent to talent, okay, Rob? You do a great show. And one of the reasons you have a great show is that you use facts to actually back up what you're saying. This woman, on the other hand, would get out there and just spew this racially divisive, frankly, in my estimation, kind of violent rhetoric night after night after night. That was based in nothing except her pure passion, which was extremely angry. So she was a liability to the network. I suspect, because, listen, the team they're replacing her with, they're no great shakes either. I suspect she was probably a headache to deal with as well from management. And they were finally like, okay, we're out of here. We've had enough. It's not good for the company. You get lousy ratings. You have no argument. Therefore, there's no heft to what you're saying.
I've heard she was a disaster. It tracks, right? I mean, and to be fair, so many people that do what we do are just very miserable people. But I mean, I've heard that she was especially miserable. Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.